one is upon us. And now we go in, we rank the wide receivers. What guys can you trust in your lineup? Who should you start? Who should you bench? And listen, I want my guys to feel like they earn their spot. The wide receiver 1 plays wide receiver 1. Wide receiver 2 plays wide receiver 2. You're flex, you're trash. You know what I'm saying, right? So we're going in, we're tier listing. We got 70 names in this tier list to build. And we're going to be putting them in S tier, A tier, B tier, all the way down. Giving you guys the best fantasy football advice all season long. Smash the like and subscribe button, please. Help us out as a small channel. We already have the running back rankings. Now we're doing wide receiver. I'll do some tight end QB if you guys want. Maybe even defense kicker if you boys ask for it. Name number 1 should be no surprise. Firmly in S tier, it's Mr. Jamar Chase. Now, if you look at a lot of fantasy apps, Justin Jefferson actually outprojects Jamar Chase. I'm fine with it. Now, Jamar Chase, you might be thinking to yourself, oh man, oh no, Brown defense, I'm scared. Listen, Jamar Chase had 20 fantasy points in 1 quarter of preseason. Now, the Browns defense is good. If we look at the last time Jamar Chase faced the Browns last season, again, Flock Fantasy, Mason Dodd, thanks for letting us use this tool in the vids. Check it out for free. Jamar Chase versus the Browns. Sure, first game, not great. I mean, not great. 18 points, pretty good. He had 97 receiving yards and a tutty in week 16 versus the Browns last year. Now, the number 2 receiver I'm also not going to be too scared about is Justin Jefferson. Plays on Monday Night Football. I get it. He has the injury, blah, blah, blah. Justin Jefferson versus the Bears had a 14-target game last time they played Chicago. Now, the Chicago Bears, pretty solid defense, new quarterback for Justin Jefferson, so that's definitely something that's a bit of a concern. Now, do you trust him with the hammy? What if he gets injured? Justin Jefferson is an automatic starter, and he belongs in S tier. Name number 3. And to be honest, Jamar Chase could be in a tier all of his own, but I'm putting these guys where I think like they all are S tier in my eyes. I have CeeDee Lamb in S tier. Now, CeeDee Lamb does have a tough matchup versus the Eagles, but the Micah Parsons trade does help his stock. They're going to be playing from behind. They're going to have to air the ball out. You know, versus Philly last year, let's see, 8 points, and he didn't play a second time versus Philly. So, I mean, yeah, see, the Eagles defense is really, really good. But the amount of volume that this Cowboys offense projects to have in terms of passing, they're going to have to be playing catch-up. I like CeeDee Lamb in S tier. Might surprise some people. Now we head to A tier. I do think there's a bit of a tier drop-off. Now, honestly, the order of these guys is kind of personal preference, but, you know, you'll see I got a bit of a logic, a bit of a rhyme and reason. First name in A tier is Mr. Malik Neighbors. Now, the reason I do actually like Malik Neighbors here, which honestly, I can't even find the dude. The reason I like Malik Neighbors is because he has, you know, a new quarterback. New quarterback, there he is, Malik Neighbors. Malik Neighbors, good quarterback upgrade in my eyes. You got Russell Wilson, the deep ball, and he's going to be somebody that you want to start immediately. He'll be your wide receiver 1, projects to have a good amount of volume. Next name is Amon-Ra St. Brown. Now, tough matchup. They're actually dogs. Can you believe it? The Lions are dogs on the road in Lambeau. They just got Parsons. It's scary. But the amount of projectable volume Amon-Ra St. Brown is going to have is high. I like him firmly in A tier. Nico Collins is a hell of a player when healthy. Guess what? It's week 1. Nico Collins is healthy, right? So Nico Collins should be a smash pick in week 1. Puka Nacua. You'll see with Devontae Adams, Puka Nacua. Where do you rank them? You have the news of Matt Stafford should be good to go for week 1, but like, what if he's not? Puka Nacua is also a walking injury concern, but when Puka Nacua is healthy, like we can go in here, we can break down what Puka does in terms of his averages. Like they're experts on Flock Fantasy currently rank him as wide receiver 4. This guy is just a points machine. So Puka Nacua firmly in A tier. I actually like the upside there. BTJ, Brian Thomas Jr. The Jaguars have a bad matchup. Like they're playing the Panthers. Bad versus bad. BTJ, Trevor Lawrence are actually pretty good. I don't think Travis Hunter's going to come in there and steal a lot of volume from BTJ right off the bat. BTJ should feast against Carolina. He's a good, obvious starting option. Now, I was debating going to the B tier right off the bat and having these guys alone in A tier because these are my favorite guys. I think they're the cream of the crop. But I'm going to throw A.J. Brown in A tier as well. I want to go ahead and pull up what did A.J. Brown do versus the Cowboys in 2024. It's going to be very interesting. 16 points the first time they played and 13 points the second time they played. Now, he did have a touchdown in the second game, and he had no touchdown the first game, but he had 110 receiving yards. Second game, he was kind of not as heavily involved, to be honest, but they were kind of going into the playoffs, so maybe they didn't want to try as much. But A.J. Brown's going to have a lot of projectable volume. The Eagles, you do worry with A.J. Brown, are they just going to ground and pound? How much volume is he going to get? Kind of a scary one when you have the Cowboys. The defense is banged up, so like A.J. Brown should be open. He should be good, but do they actually have to pass the ball? Probably not. Drake London, I also am going to throw in here in A tier. Mooney is going to be on this list, but Mooney is banged up, can't really be trusted. Drake London, the alpha wide receiver for the Falcons. Quarterback play, kind of a question mark. Mike Evans, I also have Evans in A tier. Kind of questionable, right? Like, should Evans, London, and A.J. Brown be in the same tier as Neighbors, St. Brown, Puka, Collins? Maybe not, right? But I'm putting them all in A tier. Like Evans, the workload's insane. Baker Mayfield is a hell of a quarterback. We saw this guy was elite last year in terms of passing touchdowns. Evans is also a red zone touchdown machine. So Evans is bound to hit pay dirt versus the Falcons. Anytime touchdown for Evans is a nice play. So Evans, the only wide receiver that the Buccaneers have, should smash. B tier, it's guys that you definitely start. They're borderline wide receiver ones. And honestly, you can get excited about having these guys in your lineup. I have Ladd McConkey. I have Tyreek. And I have one more name. I got Jackson, Smith, and Jigba. All of these guys, wide receiver one, wide receiver one, wide receiver one. You have Tyreek. Is he the wide receiver one over Jalen Waddle? Is Ladd the wide receiver one over Keenan Allen? The answer is yes. But it's a bit scary, especially in Tyreek's case. But these guys just project out to have solid weeks. JSN, new quarterback. Hopefully these guys, him and Scam Darnold, are on the same rapport, starting immediately on a good note. We'll have to see. Those are the only three guys I have in B tier. Now C tier is where you start these guys. Like these are where you start getting into wide receiver twos, or borderline wide receiver one, depending on your draft strategy. But this is going to be a whole tier of a lot of players. Marvin Harrison Jr., the reason I have him at the top of this tier, listen, I'm not a big Marvin Harrison Jr. guy, to be honest. Like the prospect profile obviously was insane, but I'm not like super high on him. They play the Saints. They have a very, very, very appetizing matchup, which is why I have him ahead of a lot of the other guys. We got Jalen Waddle coming in. I think I'm very high on Jalen Waddle, which is maybe a bit, I'm too high on Jalen Waddle. The Dolphins play the Colts, and I think Waddle's going... Listen, when Waddle plays with Tua, you can look at his stats throughout his career. He averages 15 points per game. Last year was a big down year, because guess what? He wasn't healthy. Tua wasn't healthy. Jalen Waddle wasn't healthy. Now, what I will say is that this guy does troll quite often in the fact that when you have Jalen Waddle, he'll miss like half a game because he'll come in for 3 plays. Oh, my leg hurts, and he'll come out. So that is something to definitely be aware of. DK Metcalf projects to have a lot of volume. You have Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers was able to support Devontae Adams when he had a pretty solid year last year. So I have Metcalf up there in this tier. Devontae Adams. Red zone opportunity. Like you kind of want Devontae Adams to have a lot of targets, and you hope he hits pay dirt for the Los Angeles Rams in week 1. New team. Matt Stafford's insane. Now Higgins, I'm a bit behind on, and I thought to myself, you know what, like, I honestly think Higgins could be up here in B tier. Maybe he's probably... I honestly do probably think Higgins is at the very least top of C tier. The reason I was a bit behind is because like I'm fading Higgins on the year because of his health. But listen, he's not the wide receiver one. Metcalf's wide receiver one. Sutton's wide receiver one. I still think Higgins and Joe Burrow, like that is... You got to put respect on him. So I'm going to boost him up to C tier prior to what I was expecting. Tet McMillan. You got a rookie. Bryce Young, favorable matchup. Listen, the Panthers wide receiver 2 is Xavier Legette and Hunter Renfrow wide receiver 3, who they just cut. So T-Mac's going to have a lot of opportunity. Projects out to have at least 7 targets in my eyes. Hopefully he does something with them. You're thinking of like 5 for 50 is kind of the stat line I'm thinking here. Decent floor, 5 for 50 with a touchdown. Obviously is much different than 5 for 50 though. So you kind of are hoping he hits pay dirt in his first game, which doesn't happen. I don't know. I got Scary Terry. There's a bit of a teardrop within C tier. Same thing we saw here in A tier. But I do think Terry McLaurin is an automatic start. Xavier Worthy, I've kind of been fading. But with the Rashee Rice being out the first 6 weeks, we're going to bump Xavier Worthy up. We're also going to bump up one of his teammates later. Garrett Wilson has to be mentioned as well. He's the starting wide receiver for the New York Jets. Now, the passing volume probably isn't going to be there. I still think Garrett Wilson could even be higher up in this tier. Like, I think I'm going to bump him up a little bit right there. And I think, what we have right now is pretty solid. Final name in C tier. A lot of people are going to be excited about this one is Emeka Egbuka. I do think if you have him, he's an automatic start in week number 1. First game as a rookie, but he's going to be wide receiver 2 on the Buccaneers' high passing volume offense. D tier. A lot of these guys in D tier, now we're starting to get into wide receiver 3 flex category. Now, I do feel confident starting a lot of these names in D tier, and you should too. In fact, I feel very confident about the names I'm putting in right here. Jamison Williams, Calvin Ridley, Zay Flowers, Devontae Smith. Now, Devontae Smith, this is kind of similar to A.J. Brown. Do the Eagles have to try in the passing game on Thursday Night Football? You can answer that question yourself. Now, I'm going to put Jerry Jeudy actually. It's tough. I'm going to put Jeudy ahead of Flowers. Just because, but the Ravens have a good matchup versus the Bills. They're going to have to pass the ball. I don't know, man. Listen. Any of these guys in D tier, they're honestly decent starts. It's just hard to predict, who's going to have the high amount of volume. But you have Flacco in there, so Jeudy honestly has to be bumped up a little bit in my eyes. The reason I'm bumping Calvin Ridley down a little bit is because the Titans play the Broncos, rookie QB, mile high, Broncos defense, high altitude. You're cooked, buddy. Travis Hunter and Jawan Jennings, I'm going to throw those guys in this tier as well. Where is Mr. Hunter? There he is. We got Travis Hunter coming in. He should be handling a decent amount of snaps on offense. We'll get clarity on that real quick. Will Jawan Jennings be there week 1? We don't know. And I'm going to put him in D tier for now with the potential for him to come down depending on injury news. Chris Olave is still the wide receiver 1 for the Saints, but the Saints quarterbacks are trash. Now, the Saints are going to be playing from behind against the Cardinals, so Olave should have a decent amount of targets. Stephon Diggs, is he going to be healthy? I don't know, but he's the wide receiver 1 for Drake May, who's a solid QB. I'm going to throw Debo in this tier. I'm going to throw Mr. DJ Moore in this tier. Where is Mr. DJ Moore? Now, you might be thinking, where's Roma Dunze? You might be thinking to yourself, I'm fading Roma Dunze, but we'll get to him soon enough. Final name is going to be George Pickens, and Pickens might be somebody getting shafted right here. You might be saying to yourself, why is George Pickens getting shafted? I honestly think he's going to have a solid week. Pickens is going to get targeted by Dak Prescott. He's going to have to be targeted. In fact, I'm going to throw Pickens a bit higher. I'm going to throw Travis Hunter a bit lower. And I'm going to throw Jawan Jennings a bit lower as well. I think that's solid. I think that looks... DJ Moore probably goes well. Diggs. I think it's a pretty good tier. It's a pretty good D tier right there. Maybe some things can be changed within it, but that's what we got. E tier is 3 or 4 guys. E tier starts off with Matthew Golden. Now, prospect profile isn't great, but guess what? Everyone's hurt. Gina Reed's probably not playing. You have Wicks. You have Romeo Dobbs. I'm not too excited about anyone else. The Packers, I think they're going to be using Matt Golden a decent amount versus the Lions. So I have him in E tier. I think he's a good flex play. This is where these guys are mostly flex plays. You got Josh Downs. You got Michael Pittman. I actually have these guys pretty close to back-to-back. Now, there's going to be a person in between Downs and Pittman. Can you guess what guy it's going to be? It's going to be the 49ers. If Jawan Jennings is out, Pearsall can be bumped up maybe 1 or 2 tiers, maybe even 3 tiers, to be honest. Pearsall did have a very solid end to 2024. I think he had a 30-point game. So you got the 2 Colts receivers. Someone's going to have to catch the ball from Danny Dimes. Maybe it's Warren, but one of these guys is bound to have a decent game versus the Dolphins. I honestly think the Dolphins could run up the score too, so the Colts could fall behind and have to go to a passing game script rather than Jonathan Taylor. But that is going to be E tier. F tier, these guys, you can potentially okay, maybe I start some of these guys if I have to. Maybe you went low, we went heavy on running back. Now you have to start some of these wide receivers that are trash. I'm not a big fan of these guys in F tier. I'm going to throw Jacoby Myers in there. I'm going to throw Hollywood Brown in there. Now, I actually think both these guys are serviceable week 1 starting options, especially Hollywood Brown, because him and Xavier Worthy are going to be the main wide receivers come Friday Night Football in Brazil. Keenan Allen should be on this list somewhere. He did have a solid solid year with Herbert when he was still with the Chargers. I'm going to throw in Khalil Shakir. I'm going to throw in Keon Coleman. Now, again, someone's going to have to catch the ball in Buffalo, and they have a big matchup Sunday Night Football versus the Ravens. So, honestly, both those guys are pretty startable. Darnell Mooney is going to be startable as well if he is healthy. Now, are you rushing to start him the first time he comes back? He hasn't even practiced. Probably not, so monitor the injury news with Mooney. Roma Dunze. People are going to say it's too low. You might be right. I'm going to wait and see. I'm going to wait on my eyes. My eyes do the processing, right? You know, let me see Caleb Williams Romanuzzi's connection on display. Let me be wrong week 1, and then I'll bump him up, you know, in the following week's rankings. I have Rome a bit far down this list. Cooper Kupp, wide receiver 2 for the Seahawks. We have JSN obviously in B tier. We're going to throw Kupp in this list. We got Rashid Shaheed. He actually was getting some decent targets in preseason. He's somebody where wide receiver 2 in the Saints. The Saints are going to be down by $1 million to the Cardinals. I think Shaheed honestly could. Shaheed is borderline top of F tier. Like he's the deep threat. They're going to be throwing it deep to Shaheed. Wouldn't be surprised if Shaheed randomly pops off for 20 points this week. Final name we're going to be ranking is actually going to be Khalil Shakir. Now, there's a chance that we're missing some. Actually, Khalil Shakir, I weird to have him ranked. So what am I saying? There's a chance we have some guys on this list that, like, you know, there's a chance there's some guys absent from this list. My bad. I didn't do the graphics, right? I'm ranking the guys I have here. So keep that in mind. Comment down below if there's anyone you think I missed. Like, there's guys here that are deserving to be ranked. Like anyone not ranked is G tier or below. Like Jaden Higgins is a name where I'm high on his upside. I honestly think Jaden Higgins could have a decent week as well. You got Amari Cooper, and beyond that, a lot of these names not great. Like Demario Douglas is someone that could have decent volume. But there it is. We got a lot of names ranked here on this board. Wide receiver rankings week 1. We're doing every position. Smash like and subscribe button. Signing off.